what about talking about the shege that men have seen in marriages and relationships? Stumbled across a clip on X. It was a podcast where some guys were talking.
Oh, okay.
And the guy said something like it is mental illness.
Oh, that one that we were watching.
To raise another man's child in a relationship. Let's listen to that clip and let's take a look at what that's about. And we can talk about that before we wrap up.
Have your own family. You'll feel better. If you have your own family, your own children, when you do for that child, it's meaningful. It means something. When you're raising another man's child, that's mental illness. Have you ever...
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. This is the Fonseca Junction podcast, Real Talk, the home of free mind and free speech. Joining me in the studio today is my usual rocksteady, strong and chested one, Resh. See what's up to the people.
Yeah, what's popping? How you doing? What's going on?
I'm good. I like the shades.
How did your week go?
My week, bro. I was holding on to dear life this week. Lagos State is sucking the juice out of me this 2025.
It's very interesting. You know, our controversial conversation that we had about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And the guy is really shaking everywhere now. USA that he caught away from everybody. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. I've realized that a lot of people they are very emotionally, detached from Donald Trump. So when they see a Donald Trump supporter, they're always very, I don't know, really. So I think I'm going to dial my Donald Trump rhetoric. I'm going to dial it back.
No, they don't push you to the caves.
Not necessarily. I'm just trying to be the peacekeeper. Really, it doesn't remove my how I feel about him and what I believe that the guy is doing.
Yeah,
to his own people. Yeah. So,
anyways,
is what it is.
This week on this episode, we're going to dial down on Donald Trump. We're going to dial down on politics.
Yeah,
even,
politics.
Right. Let's talk about something that I found was quite interesting. Well, not interesting, kind of tragic, but interesting. And it's about men in marriages, actually. Yeah. What do men even benefit in marriages? Like, sometimes I've just been on my own and I've been thinking to myself, like, when I hear some of the things that happen to men, the news that we hear about, I ask myself, like, come think about it. Why do men feel like they need to get married? Is there any benefit to it? Right. And I start off with an example of the sad story of the Nigerian-born American cardiologist. Let me get his name right. Ikenna Erinne, who committed suicide, purportedly after losing a custody battle with his wife in America. The gist was that the courts had ruled in favor of the wife to keep custody of the children and had asked Dr. Ikenna to pay about $15,000 a month in child support. And we heard that one thing led to another, he committed suicide. There's been other stories that have evolved saying it wasn't just a case of him committing suicide. He had held the wife and children at gunpoint at some point for about 3 hours. Then when the police was closing in on him, he committed suicide. Some people have said he was mentally unstable, and they've attributed his behavior to mental health issues. And the truth is that we'll never really know, right? Because it's gone, right? Unfortunately. But I think just with that story, that guy's story as a case in point, right? The question I want to ask is, what could lead a very promising young, successful man, who was 36, is not the beans to be a cardiologist in America. So he was probably earning quite a lot of money, right? his wife was equally a cardiologist. So I believe that in terms of the finances, they're good. At what point does such a promising young person lose his way to the point where he throws everything into the bin and offs himself? What could have possibly gone wrong? Could the marriage have been that bad? Like, because I saw pictures of when they got married in 2020, thereabouts, and it was all laugh and all smiles. What transpired between 2020 and 2025 that causes what would have been a happy, lovey-dovey relationship into one where the guy is holding his children, his wife at gunpoint, and then he's putting a bullet in his own, cranium?
Yeah, I think I believe that the foundation of that marriage is something very, very wrong with the foundation of that marriage. I believe that that's where we need to start from. How did they meet? What's their background? What's their family like? Is the marriage born out of that's the person that you should marry, or is it born out of this is the person that I really, really feel connected to, that I want to marry personally, because if you look at all the dynamics that surrounds why people decide to get married, in our part of the world, in the West, in Africa, it's born out of maybe if you are from that family, that tight-knit family, and don't forget that it's from the Igbo extraction and all. So if it's from that tight-knit family and all, it is tradition, So maybe the parents are telling him that you're old enough, you've come of age, you need to start looking for a wife and stuff and all. And then it is also possible that maybe the family, they have their own preferences, as it pertains to, I'm your father, I'm the one that gave birth to you. You cannot marry just anybody. You have to marry into a family that is of repute. Yeah, family. And they also choose, and this happens across board. It's not just, the Igbos, it happens in the Yoruba tribe, it happens everywhere. It happens in the Hausa tribe too. The way, you will hear that, Atiku's son got married to Buhari's cousin,
Link up.
Yeah, so these are some of the things that we need to look at, because if the marriage has gotten to the point where it is making the guy to, and it's very serious thing, because if you are married to somebody, you guys are going to be in the same house every day, it's something that you really, really need to think about. It's not like you're gonna use all the years to think about it, but something that you have to deliberately say, am I going to be able to contain myself, in the same environment with this person, based on their character, based on the things that they are doing and all and everything. And also, there is that part where if it happens to be the initial one that I talked about, which is like, okay, the family are saying that this is the person that you should marry, this is the house that you should marry into. That would mean that there's going to be a lot of pretense, putting up a face, trying to put up a front like, okay, this is the way I am, I don't get upset easily, there is that thing that, they dial back, they are not themselves and all. So these are all the things that we would have to look at, really. And there is also this thing that they say, I'm sure we'll get to that point, because of the conversation, but I don't think that the guy is emotionally, mentally, safe in that marriage. And, if you're married to somebody and you cannot confide in them, you guys cannot be in the same house, you guys cannot discuss, difficult conversations, you guys cannot get through, you cannot get past the difficult conversation and all. It's a very, it's not a good, those are some of the red flags that you need to come to terms with at the initial time that you guys are dating and all.
Yeah.
If you can't get past, real hot, like you really hurt me, you really make me, and you guys can't get past it. Those are some of the things that, and then you put it aside, you say it doesn't matter. It really matters, really, because it only gets, amplified when you guys now, because there is no need for you to now pretend once you guys are married, because at the initial point before marriage, there is that trying to act like, oh, okay, I just want to get,
vex finish.
Exactly.
You go comport yourself. Don't show the true colors.
Yeah. So when you're married, you'll be like, so what? I'm married. That's the final bus stop. So I can as well just show my true colors. Yeah. So those are some of the things that we would look at, really. But it's very sad. I saw the guy, handsome looking guy. Just
somewhere I saw somewhere, I think it was on X, a clip where T-Bills used to be Tiwa Savage's husband at some point, and they got divorced. And T-Bills was saying, he wasn't ever going to get married again. And he was saying, like, listen, it's all well and good, getting married and all, but as a guy, as a man, what you should be, what should be your priority should be having your kids and just being able to take care of them, being their lives, and make sure that you are there while they're growing up. He was saying for him, that's what's important. Like, if he had a choice, he probably wouldn't have gotten married, right? And that struck me. And I saw that. I asked you the question: is marriage for men, right? This is for the men. From the perspective of a man, is marriage still relevant in today's age and era? What do you feel? Personally, for you, if you have to answer that question, for you.
Yeah, I believe that marriage is good. There is the saying, like, if you want to set solitaries, if you want to create a good society, you set solitaries in families, and marriage is good. That's where I'll look at it. And I feel like a lot of people that have, justifiably so too, really, because you cannot invalidate somebody else's experience, based on the decision they made. They got married, situation happened, and there's a breakdown. You cannot invalidate their experience, and those are some of the things that we also should be able to come to. I give you like a story. I was talking to someone that is very close to me. Sadly, she divorced and all. And I wanted to really know, like, why did you guys, is this, can't you guys work things out? What really happened, there should be a way, like, I'm not in the picture, there should be a way, like this, so at every point in time, when the person is talking, I'll be like, no, there is something, there should be something that you guys can do. You guys can talk it out and all. The person will just be looking at me like, okay, So we got closer and all. There's a particular day she was just like, okay, that I should wait. She now went into her closet. She now brought a picture, the police reports, and then the picture there was blood. There was, when she know of which way they will go to the police, they will take pictures and stuff, how she was looking, all her face was swollen up, everything was, man. When I saw the picture, I was like, man, that was the first time I was seeing the picture. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
But up until that point, I was just talking in isolation, like, no, there should be something. You guys should figure it out. You guys should, and all, and everything. And that's the thing that's the reason why some people die in marriage, because they don't really know who to talk to. There's nobody that can, that they can confide in, like, they can tell that this is exactly what I'm really going to, especially men, because men, that that thing in this, our own part of the world safe, like, you're a man, you should, man up, that's what men go through, and all. So for me, I believe that marriage is good, But the people that have experienced whatever they've experienced, maybe out of, wrong decision, maybe out of, jumping into it hastily, whatever the case is and all, they've gone into it and, stuff happened, and they had to back out, and all. So I cannot say I'm going to be totally invalidating them, but overall, based on the question that you ask, I think marriage is a good thing because I've also seen a lot of people, that work things out and that was able to, get through their, their difficult, situation. They're able to get past it and they're able to, get better, at it and all. So for me, I think marriage is good. It just depends on the individuals, that are involved in the marriage.
Yeah. I hear you. For me, I have a more almost scientific perspective to it. And I know that there has been a couple of, and you made a very valid point where you say based on certain people's experience, they form their opinion on marriage. Tibius can say he doesn't believe people should be getting married anymore because he's been married before and it probably didn't work out, right? Some people who are currently married and happily married despite the ups and downs in their marriage will tell you that marriage is the best thing that can happen to you because it comes with blessings. Some people can tell you tangible blessings or good things that has happened to them since they got married.
Exactly.
Right? I think that there is I don't think we should kid ourselves, right? As men, there is a biological and psychological need for companionship. Men don't do well alone, especially as they get older, right? I think it's a matter of fact that men need companionship. And so the question is, do you necessarily have to get married to feel the need for companionship? If you look at like Western society where they've got like different forms of unions, right? There's civil partnerships. There's all kinds of terminologies to dictate or describe a kind of union where you're not necessarily legally married, right? So you guys cohabit and you guys, share a life together and all that stuff. I think Oprah Winfrey did something similar, where she didn't like officially marry a partner. Then they were just like doing their own thing. I think that addresses the need for companionship for men, right? Without the complications that comes with an actual marriage that's backed by a legal contract, whereby if things don't go right, and we have seen in recent times, divorce rates are inching higher and higher by the year, right? With each new dispensation, people are seeing divorce as a normal thing. I try it. If you're annoying me, if you're doing too much, I'm out, right? The problem now is, especially in Western societies, the law seems to favor a particular sect of people over others. And I'll say, like, ideally in the eyes of the law, marriages favor the person who has less wealth.
Yeah.
And also in some situations, especially when children are involved, the law tends to favor the women. So when marriages are dissolved, for instance, and there's a custody battle, right? You already know, like 80% to 20%, the law is going to favor the woman to keep custody of the children. Doesn't matter how much the father loves the child, doesn't matter how much effort he makes or whatever it is, right? The man is going to be at the losing end. So I guess, again, the question for me is, if companionship is what men need, maybe they don't necessarily need to go the marriage route. But then again, you have women who are not going to agree to just be rolling with you on a year-on-year basis, without any serious like marriage commitment. We have a lot of women who actually want the ring and they want to carry the title of being married, especially in Africa. right? So how do you find that balance, right, as a man, between meeting the need for companionship and finding a woman who is okay with just saying, yeah, we like each other, let's just go with the flow, right? Share our lives together, bring children to the world, have kids, raise them, and then not put the burden of a title of marriage on it. Is that something that you think in the near future people might be willing to explore?
People are actually doing it anyway, so it's not like maybe near future. They're already doing it. For me, because I'm using my own because either we like it or not, all of us, there is something that is bigger than us that we kind of believe in, you know. And going back to, the sad, tragic situation that happened to the guy, you know, he wasn't able to connect, you know, at that level. I guess that's why he killed himself. Because all of us at some point, we've come to a point of desperation, depression. We talked about depression the other time, you know. And how are you able to get out of, you know, that state? You know. So for me, I think we're already there. People are they've already settled, like we talked about T-Bliss, you know, Oprah Winfrey, a whole lot of, you know, other maybe celebrity, individuals, you know, across board. They're doing it in Nigeria. They're doing it everywhere, you know. But for me, I'm always going to go back to my base, which is the Christian background. You know, we talked about a man who leave his mother and his father, and he would cleave onto his wife. You know, and they will become one. And there is also the rules of engagement there too about divorce. Moses told them when Christians who were divorcing themselves left, right, and center, and they were asking Jesus Christ, "Wow, how come? Moses is telling everybody to divorce and stuff and all, and Jesus Christ was telling them, because of the hardness of your heart, you are actually supposed to be one. He made you male and female. You're supposed to be one and all." So I'm going to look at it from that standpoint, but I'm of which I've also come to terms with the fact that not everybody would believe as I believe. Not everybody will see the things in my own Christian viewpoints and all, you know. And if they decide to get married, or they choose how they want to live, you know, according to that, male and female, I can't remember, man and woman, you know, it all depends on them. And also, we can also look at society as well. I think I talked about it on our podcast as well. Somebody shared on Facebook about how in South Africa, they pay a lot, you know, for bride price. You know, it's like they are going to ham and a leg, cut your head, self joint, you know, to pay for the bride, you know. And they said the guys are very, very weary, you know, going that route, you know, and all. So, what this particular guy decided to do, him and his partner, what they decided to do was, since our family are going to be putting pressure on us, we're just going to cohabit. You know, whenever we're ready for whatever pressure they want to put on themselves, when we have come of age, when we have money, enough money, we'll now go to them and say we want to marry. But they just continue with their life, kept having babies, kept, you know, and all, and that was their own strategy and all. So so it really depends on, you know, the individuals that are involved, really. You know, I've talked about myself as a Christian. That's just my own, you know, base, which says it is good, you know, if you desire it to be married, it's better to be in a married confines, you know, where you go take the woman to your parents, or go and meet the woman's parent and introduce yourself and say, I want to get married to your daughter. And that's the way that works, really, you know. But it doesn't also mean that Christians don't get divorced. As a matter of fact, we've seen pastors that get divorced. Notable, famous pastors,
100.
that get
I've
divorced.
always
So
seen marriage like
it is.
I've always seen marriage like a perfect institution created for imperfect people.
Exactly.
Right. And I think that it is in the process of trying to keep up with the Joneses that we try to force ourselves into that system. Like you said, marriage is good. I believe marriage is good. I just think that human beings, majority of them are not wired to fulfill the tenets of marriage the way it is. And I try to be realistic about it because people change, right? And that's one of the sad things about like accepting reality is that people change. What someone wants now could change in 5 years' time, could change in 10 years' time, could change in 15 years' time. I mean, I was reading the news, Pep Guardiola, Manchester City's coach. He's been married to his ex-wife for 30 years. And after 30 years, she decides, this is not going to work for me anymore. I mean, obviously, they've been having like a strained relationship a few years prior to them officially seeking to terminate the marriage. But the point I'm making is, what is the reason why, or what could be the reason why a marriage that you've pushed through for 30 years, like what changes in 30 years, right? That makes you decide that you want something different. Obviously, what they wanted changed. Guardiola wanted to still keep like coaching in England, right? Coaching Manchester City, pursuing his football career. The wife had left England and relocated back to, I don't know what country
Spain.
it was now. Was it Spain?
Yeah. Spain.
And she'd been there for about 2 years, 3 years. And Guardiola goes on to renew his contract in Manchester City till 2027, meaning he's committing his life to being in England for another 2-3 years. And the wife is like, you know what? I think that's the final straw. You want something different now, and I want something different now, and then we've got to go, right? And so I guess the point I'm making is we see that happen a lot of times in marriages. Like people evolve, times change, and people want different things. A lot of the marriages that are still standing today, I assure you, if the people in the marriages were like open and honest with you, you realize that they're just forcing things. Like they're just forcing themselves to still stay. Like maybe because of religious beliefs, cultural beliefs, what people say. Like those are the kind of inhibitors that are stopping them from actually doing what they really want to do. If you give them like a blank check and say, you know what, you have a chance to actually do what you want to do right now. Do you want to stay or do you want to go? A lot of them are going to go. Right. And that's fact. Right. So it now raises the question of this marriage of a thing. Is it a self-induced cage that we force ourselves to be in just so that we can be in conformity
to society?
Yeah, we can be in conformity with societal standards and expectations. Or are we really doing it because it's what we really want to do? Right? It's what really, yeah, maybe there are a handful of people who like this marriage thing and want to do it like the long haul. Right? But does it really serve, benefit like the majority of the people? I guess that's what the golden question is.
Yeah, I believe that just like a committed, relationship, just like family dynamics, you realize that when you're born into a family, there is nothing you can do. This is my brother, this is my sister. It's just what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. They may be doing stuff that you don't really flow with, and all, but you have come to terms with the fact that this is my blood. There's nothing, I can only look for a way of dealing with the situation, in such a way that it's not going to be as impactful on me as, as maybe before, but because the initial time, it may be a situation whereby you expect them to change. You are talking to them, you are conversing with them and all, but the moment you turn your back, they go back, they relapse and they start doing the things that they've been doing and all and everything. So you try, and you'll just be like, oh, okay, I guess this is just the way this person is, and then you come to terms with it like, okay, I've accepted. So I'm just going to be dealing with this person just like, understanding that this is just who this person is and all.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing with marriage, but where, I could say the twist in that is both parties should be wanting the best for one another. You talked about the Pep Guardiola situation. Marriage is, I believe, it's something that you have to come to terms with the fact that we're always going to be shifting ground at every point. It may be the lady that will shift ground today, it may be you that will shift ground tomorrow. It's just the way it is, really. The moment you think, oh, this is just where I am, that's a recipe for disaster. This is just the way I am. That's a recipe. You don't even say that in marriage. That's a recipe for disaster. Everyone should always be shifting ground. And I think for 30 years, the lady has tried. Pep Guardiola that we talk about.
Yeah.
She's tried. She shifted ground, time and over again. And with the way, this football thing can go for maybe like 8 months,
Yeah.
8 months at you
won't see each other.
Yeah, you won't see each other. And because of his type of commitment to his sport, it's like he's married to sports, So the woman, he's going to be the one that is keeping the home front, whatever the case is and stuff and all. And back to back like that. So for me, I think it's something that both parties would always have to be shifting ground. And if you're not willing to shift ground, that's a recipe for disaster, really. And also, it's also good to know, like I said before, it's also good to know the type of person you're getting married to. It's difficult. You can't know people like wholeheartedly and completely and all, but there are some signs that you would see, and I'm sure because if you are sincere with the relationship, I'm sure you must have seen some signals pointing at you like this thing may be difficult. This thing may be like a red flag for you and all. But people don't really, I'll be like, we'll get through it. But if the thing is really nagging and it's coming at you, coming again and all, it's something that someone needs to look at really. Because down the line, that is where the real issue is, And also for me, I believe that, marriage is an institution where both parties would have to settle in their heart that they're always going to be compromised. I'm going to be right today, or I'm be right today, but I choose to be wrong, just so that I can allow, because sometimes also, just because you want to get your message across at that initial time, and you don't want to shift ground because you feel like I'm right, and all, can also be like a major, impediment to the whole situation. So at the end of the day, by being wrong at that time, you become right eventually, because maybe that person has had enough time to kind of sit down and think through it and be like, just because they are invested in the relationship, they want to get better in the relationship, they will now come around and say, okay, I think I was wrong, at that initial time. But because of, I'm not going to shift ground, she should know that I'm right, or he should know that I'm right, no. And then you sit on it and all, and let's be able to be like, this one is a very difficult person. I don't think I'm going to be able to deal with this type of person and all. And so for me, I think those are some of the things that, results to, I saw a video of, Little Bow Wow. Is it Little Bow Wow? Bow Wow. I saw, they said the video has been a long time ago, and, it was a police mock shot, and, it was when they were taking his complaints.
Yeah.
That was when they took the shots and all. He had, bruises, marks on his head. I don't know if you've seen the video.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, had bruises in the mark. And then when the police were asking him, he was like, I did not do anything, And the comment that I was seeing there would be like, they said like, this guy obviously he's innocent. He didn't do anything. It was painful to him. Like, he was trying to let the police know, like, this thing is really, really hurting me, but I did not do anything to this woman and all and everything. And I think it's also because of the society, that they are in, because when you hit the woman, it's more like they are even, what's it called? Pushing you to that point of, aggression, so once you hit them, they have an evidence to, to use and to just start milking you, and all. So for me, I think it's, the sincerity aspect of it, I believe is where individuals that want to get married needs to come to, and that's for me, that's my own state of mind, really, I mean, if I get into, I've gotten into quite a number of, situation with a potential, suitor, like, okay, maybe something can be good that comes out of this and all and everything, and the moment I see some, like, maybe like
some signs,
maybe like I'm not shifting ground, maybe like, this is my way or no, I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not perfect by any length, but I'm just saying, like, each individual should be willing to shift ground, at every point in time. Should be willing to shift ground, should be willing to, and all. Yeah, so I believe that's, for me, I think that's the...
All right.
That's the...
I want to very quickly go back to the matter of how the law tends to favor women in issues of marital disputes and divorce cases. And I may be wrong, right? I may be wrong, but that's my view. I think the law favors women, right?
That's in the West.
In the West, yeah. Yeah, in the West, yeah. So the question is, has the time come for maybe the people who craft the law to take a second look at how the law is currently being administered when it comes to divorce cases? And the typical example is, alimony, or, the whole idea of splitting the wealth by half, right? I look at Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
Now that it turns my head every time.
Michael Jordan too, the same thing.
Yeah, how Jeff Bezos got a divorce and his wife took like 40 billion or something like that.
Yeah.
And then went on to marry a school teacher.
Yeah.
Wild. Right? Because at that point, money wasn't a problem for her. But the point is, that 40 billion or whatever how much money she got, that's Jeff Bezos' sweat. How fair is it to say that because you were married to somebody and then the marriage didn't work, and then upon divorce, the law just awards you half, a quarter, whatever it determines, of the other person who's been working very hard, all their sweat? The law assumes that you should be compensated, because of the fact that you were married to that person. But the question I ask myself is, you were proposed to and you agreed to get married to that person. So at what point is there a moral justification to say that a contract that you willingly agreed into, right, without any promise of financial gain or whatever, you willingly agreed to marry somebody? Where's the moral justification to say that you get to take half of the other person? And it goes both ways. So sometimes the woman is the one that has the money, because I saw a clip where it showed how much money Halle Berry has paid. Halle Berry has been married like 5 times, right?
Yeah.
And every single person she got married to got like a hefty check when they divorced, right? So it goes both ways. And the question I'm asking myself is, where is the moral justification for that? And people will argue and say, in those kind of marriages, maybe the woman is the one that stays at home and is a stay-at-home mom and is taking care of the home front, while the father is the one working. And if that's the case, then let them make like some kind of civil agreement, right? And say, because you decide, nobody's forcing you to stay at home anyways, right? You reach a mutual agreement to stay at home and be a stay-at-home mom and look after the kids, right? Find some way to be compensated for that, right? The law shouldn't be the one, sliding the hammer and saying, for whatever reason, you get to take half of the guy's sweat and success just because the marriage didn't work. I think the time has come for us to actually start looking at that, because that looked like fraud to me.
Now, if you say it is time for us to start looking at that,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, those laws are in the West.
Yeah, they're in the West. I mean, it's time for the black men. I'm speaking of black men now, because every other day Tyrese is crying on Twitter, on TikTok. Mashallah. They took his daughter from him.
Yeah.
Then they took like half his money from him.
Yeah.
He's always crying. I feel bad for my guy because I like Tyrese. And I'm like, a lot of other black men, have been going through this stuff. And it just might be time to speak up and say, it ain't right.
Yeah. Did you see the divorce situation with this guy? What's his name now? Dr. Dre. Did you see the divorce situation?
That was a long time ago, isn't it?
No. It's recent.
Yeah, Dr.
Divorced
Dre.
recently.
No, I don't.
Divorced recently.
Yeah.
And the wife was like scheming, like, it was more like going to be a big payday.
Yeah, big payday.
And all. Apparently the guy had done some paperwork.
Mad works.
Some paperwork from way back when, like 20 years ago. So the guy, it was more like pulling out, pulling out that magic from his cards.
Yeah.
So he caught the lady by surprise. So she didn't know. It was very embarrassing to her, really. So I think the lady got maybe like $1 million thereabout.
Yeah.
Dr. Dre is about maybe like $1 billion or what have you and all.
Yeah.
So, and then when he now divorced, he now celebrated, put it in his house, like finally divorced. It was a big celebration, And I'm like, what's going on? I think the society is also, the way society is constructed is also teaching a lot of people sense now, especially if you've got, means and wealth and stuff. And
young man.
When we talked about, or we referenced this footballer that
Hakimi.
Yeah, is he Hakimi?
Akraf Hakimi.
Yeah, that ceded everything to the mob.
Someone said that stuff was lies though.
It was lies?
Yeah, it wasn't true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she still got paid.
I don't know, but I heard that
the whole situation was not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Was made up.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll give another example. Kyle Walker. He used to play for Manchester City, right back. So Kyle Walker, crazy guy. He's married, or he was married. And then he had like this side chick. And every now and then he would, the wife found out, was upset, threatened him and everything. He would say he's sorry, he's breaking it off. Then when she forgives him, he'll go right back to the side chick and get her pregnant. Right? And then the cycle starts all over again. I think he got his side chick pregnant like twice. And then his wife says, that's the final straw. I'm getting a divorce. By this time, he's still playing for Manchester City. So, as usual, Kyle Walker is begging and everything. And she's like, no, I've given you so many chances. This time, I'm serious. We're done. Fast forward a couple of weeks later, news leaks to the press that a Saudi Arabian club is looking to sign Kyle Walker.
Yeah, I think I know that story.
And I think he's going to get maybe $100 million a year or something like that. Something stupendous.
His forgiveness now came from the heart of the lady.
I assure you. Like 2 days later, the tone changed. All of a sudden, mommy is really looking very forgiving. Like she's looking very gracious. She's making plans to even move the family to Saudi Arabia, start afresh.
Yeah, I heard that story too.
Yeah, that tells you the money at the end of the day is do people even get married for love and money anymore?
I think that's
it's all fraud.
Yeah, I think that's where that's a big elephant in the room. Do people really get married for and that's the reason why the likes of them Kobe Bryant, late Kobe Bryant, them LeBron James, them all these big sport guys and stuff and all, they always tell them to go back to their high school, lovers.
Yeah.
The one that knew them when they didn't have money, that was willing to stake it, and all. it doesn't also mean that all the stories are, goes well and all, but, yeah, I just believe that if anybody wants to get married, if you want to get into it, just know that it's going to be something that, it's a lifelong thing. You have to consider the fact that you're going to be selfless, in the marriage. You're going to be, and then you're looking to build yourselves together. It's actually a good thing, really, because all the people that I have, that I look up to, like, big brothers and fathers and stuff and all, they've been able to weather the storm, and they're also magnanimous enough for me to have access to them, like inside. So I also see some of those bad times, where they fight themselves, and all, and they're able to get through it and stuff. So there is no relationship that doesn't have their ups and downs, but you just need to know that you're doing it for the right reasons. You can be right. The other person might not be right. They might be doing it just because it's their ambition, it's what they want to do and what have you. So you have to come to the point where you understand, like, okay, this is really what I want to. I cited a reference about a lady that I was kind of close to and all. Guess what? She now came clean, This conversation, and that's the thing with relationship. This conversation kept going like 10 years, after 10 years and stuff. And a lot of confession that kept coming up, like, okay, it's like, the truth of the matter is, like, when when they were actually dating and when they were, planning to get married and all, told me, like, there was something that happened before they were going to get married. It was the biggest red flag. What she said was that the family wanted, they wanted them to just, get married so that they can move on with their life, and also it was more like it was a family pressure, So, at the end of the day, she felt like she shouldn't have gotten married. So the red flag was there before she did, and it's just the way it is. So, I believe that if you are really sincere, I'm not talking of anybody that has their own plans as well. If you are really sincere, you will see some of the red flags. And when you see that red flag, don't get emotional, don't get this thing, cause break away. And all that's.
Yeah. So lastly, finally, while we're talking about the shege that men have seen in marriages and relationships, I stumbled across a clip on X. It was a podcast where some guys were talking.
Oh, okay.
And the guy said something like, it is mental illness.
Oh, that one that we're watching.
To raise another man's child in a relationship. Let's listen to that clip and let's take a look at what that's about. And we can talk about that before we wrap up.
Have your own family. You'll feel better. If you have your own family, your own children, when you do for that child, it's meaningful. It means something. When you're raising another man's child, that's mental illness.
Have you ever tried to do that?
That's crazy.
I've done that.
Oh, you've done. Okay, speaking from experience. Okay,
yeah,
got it.
It's mental illness. It's really one of the worst things you could do.
Raising another man's child is mental illness.
It's mental illness.
Explain.
Because
please.
you're raising something that don't belong to you. That's some horrible shit to pretend. That's like a gay man who wants to be a woman, or a woman who wants to be a man. You're pretending to be something that's not natural. And nobody talks about it in our community. We men think that's what they should do. And you know what happens? Financial fucking debt. And then when your money is out, the pressure that's on you, the stress, you end up dying early. And you out of here. And don't nobody give a fuck. And the kids will love you, yeah, if you're a good person. But there's not stress. You ever notice that you can be a stepfather and the dad, the birth father ain't shit, but they still love that motherfucker like he paid the rent.
Right.
It's still
Put groceries in the house.
It's still emotional
they still show
attachment.
love to dad.
Because that's their daddy.
Exactly.
No matter what.
Why should you go through that? Why?
Interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Interesting.
I mean, some people, and it's interesting because this perspective is interesting from both the men and the female angle. Like, women are looking for men who are empathetic enough to take off someone else's child, love them like their own, blah, 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 blah. And from a male's perspective, I think that everything this guy said actually makes sense. But what do you think about it?
You know, like I've always said, whenever before I used to just go off the cuff, like, yeah, why is this talking like that and all? But I've come to the point now where I now understand that, you see, people have different experiences and you cannot, that would be very, very insensitive of you to invalidate their experience.
Yeah.
You know, whatever they've gone through, they are the one that can say, they are the one that can speak for themselves and stuff, and the reason why they are making whatever decision that they're making and all, you know. But for me, I feel like, you know, if you're not going to accept the person wholeheartedly, then don't get into it. You know, if I was going to look at it in my own way, I feel like maybe the guy is not really mature enough, you know, and he's speaking selfishly based on the experiences that he's had. I know. Does that mean that his experience is not valid? His experience is valid, really, but what would you do? Like, I mean, given that these children, they didn't bring themselves, to the earth and all, the deadbeat dad that kind of left them out and dry, you know, he's gone on his own path and all. So if you're going to get involved with the lady, you know that you're going to have to, you know, come into that situation, understanding that those kids are going to be looking for a model, you know, a male model, you know, that they can look up to, that they can, you know, and these are the things that happen a lot in the US, really, you know, because especially within the black family, you know, a lot of, single mothers, a whole lot of single mothers, you know, because they said it's the justice system, you know, that created that type of vacuum, you know, because the justice system favors the women, you know, in place of the guy and stuff. So the men are also like, okay, get as many baby mamas as possible. I'm not going to be responsible for anybody, you know, and all, which is what they did, you know. So for me, I think, if you're going to get into any relationship with someone that has a baby, you know, or that has kids, you have to come with that understanding, like, you know, they are going to be your responsibility as well, you know, and that they are not your, biological child or what have you and all. That's nonsense, because some people that, got married, that don't have babies and call. So what are they going to do? Are they going to kill themselves?
Like they adopt, right? Yeah, so that's the point I was going to make. I was going to say, like, what's the difference between raising someone else's child and adopting?
Exactly.
Right? Because in an instance where, for some reason, you're not able to procreate, you know, if you adopt a child, that child belongs to somebody else, right?
Exactly.
And you can raise them as your own. But here's my 2 cents on the matter, though. If as a man, you have the ability to have your own kids, then don't raise somebody else's child. I'll say that, right? Don't get into that situation. Unless it's been clinically proved that you are incapable of having your own children. Because, like this guy said, and we're talking about real talk now, we're not talking about what's idealistic or, you know, what's the ideal way to go. A lot of children, eventually, especially like you said, even if the parents, the biological parents, like deadbeat, every child is going to grow up to some point and still want to gravitate towards finding out, oh, who was my dad, right? Or, you know, they start asking their parents questions when they get to the particular age. They want to know where their dad is. They want to know why their dad left them. There's an attachment that's missing that they want to feel, regardless of how hard the stepfather or the adoptive father has worked to create a bond, they will always gravitate towards trying to find out who their real biological father is. And when you put yourself in that position, you realize that no matter how hard you try, you're still going to be option number 2, especially if the biological parents are still alive, right? They're always you're going to feel like as if you're just coming up short. And as a man or as men, I don't think you want to be in that kind of situation, right? But by all means, if you end up having your own kids, and then it's a case of you have your own kids, and then you're also raising somebody else's child or whatever, then maybe the impact isn't that much, because you have your own children that love you and all that, So yeah, it's a dicey one, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, valid. But what I'm going to also say is, we have to also put into consideration, like I said, this kid, they didn't bring themselves into the world. Their dad just decided to be deadbeats, And then if you find yourself, because some people, maybe the woman didn't get married, maybe she's a single, or maybe single mother or single father, as the case is, and this person has, made something of themselves, responsible. I'm not talking maybe they have all the wealth or what have you and all. They're just responsible, individual that is kind of, and then, something led to the other. Paths crossed, and then interests, starts to develop and all, and then maybe you like them, or maybe because, these are situations, these are just real life stories that happens. It's not maybe like a fairy tale or stories, tales by moonlight that we're talking about. These are real life issues that people go through. Yeah. Maybe they made mistake while they were growing up. They have a child, and then, they have to deal with that consequence, and then they have to raise the child, and then they grow up, and then they become of age, and then you now cross path, and then you meet them and all. So situations happens. This guy, what's his name? Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal's father, left him. LeBron James, up until today, he doesn't know who his father is. Shaquille O'Neal's father left him. It was his mother married another guy, Sergeant something, and Shaquille O'Neal is always talking about that sergeant. Everything that he said he became in life today was because of that sergeant, and all. Because eventually he was able to see his father and all. But it was just more so to fulfill righteousness. Like, okay, I'm going to see my father and all, But he's forever grateful, because that guy was in the military, he's late now, was in the military, took him to Germany. From Germany, he was, and the guy was a disciplinarian, like, Shaq said he was very big in the class. He was always, and Shaq is very funny, talking about how the man always deals with him, like, you have to be, on time, you have to be this, you have to be that, and all. And he knows that if he messes up, he's going to meet a sergeant at home. He's a military man, and that guy has, so, and look at Shaq now. He's what he is today, though he's divorced too anyway, but he's what he is today, because he gives credit to, the sergeant's man and all. And then he talks about a story when he made his first contract in the NBA, and he went and got a Mercedes Benz, and when he got home, drove the whip into the house and all, and his adopted father was like, it's a good ride, you got a good ride and all. So he went back to the dealership, told them to give his adopted father exactly the same thing, and all. So it was when he now got home, when they started checking accounts. They were like, this guy's going to go broke early. So they now had to discuss. But just saying that is Shaquille O'Neal's experience. You can imagine if the sergeant's, adopted father decided, I'm not going to marry this woman because he has kids, and all and everything, But Shaq made something out of his life. And as a matter of fact, you wouldn't even know about the sergeant father, but for Shaq, what Shaq had become in life and all. And then he became a global figure that everybody, likes and stuff and all. It's due to somebody taking a chance, on him, and all. And what they say, like, that family unit where there is a man and a woman at home create some level of structure, for the family, and all. So for me, I don't think it's a bad thing, to, accept somebody else's, mistakes, in the past and all, I mean, especially if you're within your, capacity to cater to those kids and stuff and all. And then also the woman too, is she willing to cede responsibility and say, I'm not going to have that? Because also those are some of the things that also create friction. When they will say, no, Shebi, you're not the father. Yeah, you're not the father. Let the father talk to the guy and all and everything, because they want to shield the baby, or they want to shield the child, or whatever the case is and stuff. So if they are both invested and all, it's something that they should be able to do.
All right. That's as much as we got time for. But I want to hear your opinion or your views. Do you think that it is okay for a young man to father another woman's child, especially when he hasn't had any of his own, going into a relationship? Let's get your thoughts in the comments, and let's see what you think about that.
Yeah, I'm going to give it back to you, but going back to what we discussed earlier about the guy that killed himself.
Yeah.
The lady put out a note and talked about, what happened and what have you and all. There is this very, very interesting saying. So you can keep a secret between two people. You can keep it conveniently between two people. But guess what? One of them should be dead. You don't get to hear anything about,
no report.
So we won't be able to know exactly what happened between those two.
Yeah.
I know, but it's sad that guy killed himself. A young guy, budding, future ahead of him.
Yeah. I mean, she painted a scenario. I heard the guy, there was a restraining order against him already, and, lots of things. But like you said, we will never know the truth. Thank you for listening to us on the episode, for this fantastic Fun to Get episode. Support us by liking, subscribing, sharing our content. You can drop us a comment as well. Let us know what you thought about this episode. From us at the Junction, we're signing out. We'll see you all next episode. Till then, stay jiggy. It's your boy LA. Peace out.